My name is Eleanor. I'm 28 years old. I never became a mother.
That sentence sounds simple when I say it out loud, almost ordinary. There are many women who never have children. Some choose it, some don't. Life moves the way it wants. For most of my life, I told people it was my choice, and for a long time, I believed that. When I was in my 20s, I was certain I had time. Everyone around me was rushing into marriage, into small houses with thin walls and crying babies. I wanted something else. I wanted freedom. I wanted a career that meant something. I wanted to wake up and answer only to myself. I worked at a publishing house in Boston. I remember the smell of paper and ink. I remember staying late, long after the others had gone home, feeling proud that I was building something of my own. My friends would call and say they couldn't come out because their child had a fever or they hadn't slept in 2 days. I would hang up and feel relieved. I told myself I had chosen wisely. In my 30s, I fell in love with a man named Daniel. He wanted children, not urgently, but eventually. We would sit in his kitchen late at night drinking tea, and he would talk about teaching a little boy how to ride a bike or braiding a little girl's hair before school. I would smile and say, "Not yet. Let's just enjoy us." He waited longer than he should have. I remember the night he told me he couldn't wait forever. He wasn't angry. That almost made it worse. He looked tired, like a man who had been holding his breath too long. I told him I wasn't ready. The truth was, I didn't know if I would ever be ready. He left a few months later, married someone else within 2 years. They had 3 children. I know because I looked him up once, late at night, when I couldn't sleep. There was a photo of him at a beach, 2 teenagers towering over him, a little girl leaning against his shoulder. He looked full. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark for a long time. Time has a quiet way of moving. You don't hear it at first. You think there's still so much of it left. I kept working. I was promoted. I bought a condo. I took trips alone. Paris, Vancouver, Santa Fe. I collected postcards instead of school drawings. I told myself this was enough. In my 40s, the questions started changing. They became softer, but sharper. "Do you regret it?" people would ask gently. "No," I'd answer, and most days I meant it. But sometimes I would be in a grocery store and see a mother struggling with a toddler having a tantrum, and I would watch her with a kind of ache I couldn't explain. Not because it looked easy, it didn't. It looked exhausting. It looked messy. But it looked shared. My life was neat, controlled, predictable. No one needed me in the middle of the night. No one called me just to hear my voice. In my 50s, my body made the decision for me, quietly, without drama. I remember sitting in a doctor's office hearing words that felt final. It wasn't unexpected. I was past the age where people ask hopeful questions. I walked to my car afterward and sat there for a long time. I didn't cry. I thought I would feel devastated. Instead, I felt something stranger, like a door had shut in a hallway I had never fully walked down. That's when I began to understand something I hadn't allowed myself to before. I hadn't chosen not to be a mother. I had chosen to wait. And waiting, it turns out, is its own kind of decision. In my 60s, my friends became grandmothers. Our conversations changed again. They carried photos in their wallets. They excused themselves from dinners to attend recitals. They complained about being tired, but their eyes were alive in a way I couldn't quite describe. I listened. I nodded. I went home to my quiet condo. Holidays were the hardest. Thanksgiving was manageable when my parents were alive. Christmas felt warm when there were still siblings and noise and someone arguing in the kitchen. But one by one, those chairs emptied. The first Christmas I spent entirely alone, I made a small meal, I lit a candle, I watched the snow from my window. Around 8 in the evening, I realized no one would call, not because they didn't care, but because there was no one who belonged to me in that way. No child wondering if I was warm enough, no one arguing over whose house I should visit next year. Belonging is a quiet thing. You don't notice it when you have it. Now, at 78, I move slower. The stairs feel steeper. The nights feel longer. Sometimes I imagine a different version of this room. Toys once scattered on the floor, a teenage door slammed in anger, college acceptance letters opened at this very table. I imagine an adult daughter sitting where I am now, telling me about her own regrets, her own fears. I don't imagine perfection. I imagine noise, imperfection, interruptions. I used to think love would restrict my life, that motherhood would make my world smaller. What I understand now, too late for me, is that my world became small anyway, not because I didn't have children, but because I kept postponing the parts of life that felt uncertain. I was afraid of losing myself, and in protecting myself so carefully, I lost something else. There is no villain in my story, no dramatic tragedy, just a series of gentle delays, a belief that there would always be more time to decide. My life was not empty. I loved, I worked, I saw beautiful places. But tonight, sitting here with the sound of the refrigerator humming and nothing else, I can finally admit that there is a space inside me that was never filled, and it's a space shaped like something I kept telling myself I didn't need. Maybe that's all I wanted to say. If you're still here, thank you for sitting with me for a little while. Sometimes it helps just to let the quiet be shared.